Thank you very much for your company here on JoyNews Desk. Now, the Member of Parliament for Bole, Yusuf Suleimana, has written to the Interior Minister to set up a police post in the mining communities along Ghana's border with Ivory Coast, taken over by gunmen. The MP's request follows a JoyNews hotline documentary, Rebel Land, that highlighted how rebels and local gunmen are raining terror on residents of the area. Dollar Power and Accra, near the northern region town of Bole, have been the hotbed of illegal mining. In today's edition of the JoyNews Agenda, Kwetenate takes a look at what has been done after the story was first aired 3 months ago.
On 1st February 2017, JoyNews reported how rebels had taken over part of northern Ghana, raining terror on residents. The report revealed how people were being killed and harassed in the hustle for gold in the towns of Accra and Dollar Power near Bole.
Someone lost their life. There were 2 people. When the rebels seized gold from someone, then they went to beg for the gold. On their way back home, they were being attacked. And 1 person died.
On the 13th of February 2017, the Minister of Interior, Ambrose Derry, directed the Inspector General of Police to investigate and act on reports that Ivorian rebels are controlling the 2 illegal mining communities in the northern region of Ghana. JoyNews is learning that the MP for the area, Yusuf Suleimana, has written to the Interior Minister demanding the establishment of a police post in the area to curb the high incidence of crime at Dollar Power and Accra.
Let me thank JoyNews for this initiative. Sometimes we have the media taking up an issue and dropping it somewhere along the line. I'm happy that you are following up to ensure that you get to the bottom of this issue. Indeed, when the story broke out, what I did was to meet with the Interior Minister as promised. And when I met with him, the decision was that I put in a request for whatever I think should be the case. So I wrote to him asking that if we could have a police post at Dollar Power, and that indeed there's some issues of insecurity there, but I think that raiding was not the way to go. And so if we could get a small police post there, it will help. So I put in a request and they responded, and so I'm still hoping that they would do what they promised to do. They promised that they're going to look into it and then solve the problem for us. I also requested that if they could add 1 or 2 vehicles to the Bole Police Command, because I realized that the district is very vast and there are so many hinterlands and so many, if you like, economic activities taking place in some of these communities. Brings about conflict, brings about insecurity, and so the police need to be in touch with some of these communities. But 1 vehicle for me is not enough, and even as I speak to you, that 1 vehicle is grounded and they don't have any vehicle to go anywhere.
We know that the Interior Minister directed the IGP to investigate the matter. Do we know how far the matter has gone?
I'm not sure there is any, but I cannot speak to this issue because issues of investigation can take different formats. But as I speak to you now, we are on recess, and so I spent close to 3 weeks in the constituency. I visited the chiefs, I visited key stakeholders in the community, and I have explained to them what actually transpired so far as the issue of Dollar Power was concerned. And before I left there, I haven't heard any information that somebody had come to find out anything about Dollar Power from them. I also visited some other Galamsey sites when I was in the constituency. Thank God when I got there to explain to them that this is a directive from President Nana Akufo-Addo that all Galamsey activities be halted. They had already put their tools down and they were waiting for directives as to what needs to do. So there's no any Galamsey activity taking place, especially in places that I visited, and that they were waiting for the president's second directive as to what to do.
Clearly, local miners will continue to rely on gunmen to protect their gold until the Interior Ministry provides them with a police post. Reporting for Joy News, Kwetenate.
Stay with us here on the Joy News channel for some follow-ups on stories that have been done by reporters here on the Joy News channel. Away from that, pressure is mounting on the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission boss, Samuel Sarpong, to step aside as BNI investigations continue into alleged questionable payments at the PURC. Today, the workers say they are intensifying protests of the commission to force him out. Yesterday, Head of Public Affairs, Nanaya Jantwa, tendered in her resignation. She did not explain or give reasons for her resignation, but Ms. Jantwa and her boss, Samuel Sarpong, have been subject of an ongoing BNI probe following a Joy News expose on questionable payments made at the commission. Ernest Menu has more.
According to an internal memo dated 15th May 2017, Head of Public Affairs at the PURC, Nanaya Jantwa, indicated her intention to resign from the commission effective 11th November this year. She explained that prior to her resignation, she wishes to take all outstanding leave which is accruable to her as a staff of the commission starting from 4 June 2017. Extract of the memo reads, I quote, I wish to thank the Commission for giving me the opportunity to serve 13 years of my 28 years working life in the public service. Whilst on leave, I will be available anytime the Commission needs me. Unquote. Chairman of the PURC Staff Union, Jabaru Abubakar, commended her decision to step aside while the BNI continues with their probe.
She thinks that it is not just fair for her to be hanging on to her post while she has to be reporting to the BNI for investigations, or maybe reporting to the BNI mostly. So I think that is a hallmark of somebody who is bold and trying to accept that at least we've gone wrong in one way or the other.
He reiterated the union's call on the Executive Secretary of the PURC, Samuel Sarpong, to step aside while he's being investigated for suspicious payments at the Commission.
Like a union, we have received it, but it's unfortunate. But our direction has been to the Executive Secretary, who we still expect that at least he should rather do an honorable open and step aside.
Also, we'll be bringing you some updates on that particular demonstration planned by workers at the PURC. We actually had to speak to the leader, but he's in a meeting and cannot join us now. But we'll be bringing you updates on that planned demonstration. Now, a ceremony marking the official opening of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, formerly known as the Ridge Hospital, is currently underway. President Mahama did the official commissioning sometime in November 2016, but the hospital did not open its doors to the public until today. The ultra-modern 620-bed capacity facility is expected to provide quality health care for the people of Accra and its environs. Let's go to the event grounds now for some live updates.
Believes the good public-private partnerships are the most important drivers of sustainable healthcare systems. I could not agree more. I've mentioned a few of the American companies that have provided tremendous support in building this state-of-the-art hospital, and I want to be sure to note a few others. Thornton Tomasetti, Bard, Rowan Athenas Consulting Engineers, American Standard, Sherwin-Williams, Terex, Hewlett-Packard, and Cisco all contributed to this achievement. As demonstrated today, we could mobilize the resources of both our governments and the private sector to address healthcare industry constraints. Over the past year, we've spent more time in dialogue with the Ghanaian government and with stakeholders regarding how we can have the greatest strategic impact. This brings me to a major priority of the U.S.-Ghana partnership: eliminating constraints to economic growth, ensuring broad-based sustainable growth in Ghana. The development of this hospital has and will provide economic opportunities to both Ghanaians and Americans. I've spoken about the successes for the American companies involved. But let's not overlook the fact that approximately 2,000 Ghanaians were involved in this construction. The existing hospital had a total staff of 654. When it is fully operational, this number will go to nearly 1,500. Those are real jobs for Ghana's professionals, providing excellent health care for Ghana's people. I'm often asked why the United States cares about Ghana's economic growth, Ghana's health, and Ghana's sustainability. It's very simple. Ghana's success benefits not only Ghana, it also benefits the United States. We share the goal of a sustainable, financially thriving Ghana, a Ghana with a healthy and educated population that can fully participate in the global economy and global security. We support the government of Ghana's commitment to private sector-led growth. We believe it will translate into economic prosperity for Ghanaians that in turn provides opportunities for Americans and American companies. It is not a zero-sum game. We can and will succeed together. Honorable ministers, deputy ministers, Nana Nome, government officials, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so pleased that we can work together in bringing a world-class health care facility to Ghana's citizens. Congratulations to those who made this project a reality, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Next is the French ambassador to Ghana, Ambassador Buzula. Please put your hands together for me.
Honorable Ministers, dear colleague, Ambassador Jackson, traditional leaders here present, distinguished guests, dear friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen, I am indeed very happy to be here, part of this event today. This is a great opportunity. This is a great day for Ghana because of this quite impressive building that will provide a better health for the population of Accra and its region. The reason why I'm here is that this project actually is an American project with a French touch. And I'm very happy about it. And I'm happy for three main reasons, actually. The first one is that we have here a perfect example of the French expertise being available to key sectors of Ghana's development. I'm also happy to be here because that was mentioned earlier of the real contribution to sustainable development in Ghana that this investment represents. And finally, because it gives me opportunity to put this project into context, the context of the major health challenges faced by Ghana and Africa in particular. The French expertise, I said, is available to Ghana in key sectors of its development, health, as we can see, because Bouygues, the French group that was instrumental with others, of course, in the completion of this project, has shown its clear expertise in building hospitals, but we are also present in other key sectors like energy, transport, waste and water management, not to mention tourism or contribution to digitization of economy and society here in Ghana. Those investments are crucial. They will contribute directly to the wealth of the country and the better standards of living. But they also will contribute, and this is important, to the attractiveness of this country, which will help bring more FDIs in Ghana. Ghana Beyond Aid, as your president uses to say, certainly needs more foreign investments and state-of-the-art facilities like this one, which represents a big step forward in the modernization of health infrastructure. So will contribute to the attractiveness of Ghana, but the same is also true in education field, hospitality, and other sectors. The second reason I mentioned was a decisive contribution of this facility to sustainable development, which showed the real commitment of Ghana to sustainable development. I'd like on this stage to remind you of a famous definition given by a French writer, Saint-Exupéry, of sustainable development. On n'hérite pas la terre de nos ancêtres, on l'emprunte à nos enfants. We don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And you know, investing in the future, like with this facility that we are inaugurating today, is a clear commitment for the future generation. It brings, you know, the 3 pillars of sustainable development, more social justice, because it reduces injustice vis-à-vis health problems, difficulties, diseases. It will certainly contribute to save more lives and contribute to treat more and more people. As was reminded also, it contributes directly to the third actually of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals adopted by the United Nations 2 years ago. Economic development is the second pillar of sustainable development, the third one being environmental protection, and there was a reference to it by the previous speaker, my American colleague. Economic development is also important, and with this project, lots of direct and indirect jobs were created. The operation of the hospital itself will create new jobs, and also we should bear in mind that while providing a better health to the population of Ghana, Accra and its region, you will increase productivity of the workforce here in this country and contribute to reduce the tax or the cost on the economy. Environmental protection, finally. Well, as was said, this facility was awarded with famous LEED certification. This is the first of Africa, in Africa, and that was also mentioned. So this is clearly a very good news for Ghana, and indeed indication, as I said, of the strong will of this country and this government in particular to sustainable development. It's not a win-win, it's a win-win-win, you know, situation. Third and finally, I'd like to put this project in the context of the more general challenges, health challenges facing Ghana today. We should not forget that having a nice facility, a brand new state-of-the-art facility is very important, and we are all proud of it for Ghana and its population. But we should not lose sight of the fact that people should keep to get access to it, that all the treatments there should be affordable to the people. The second aspect is that we shouldn't lower our guard vis-à-vis some of the big challenges that were also mentioned by previous speakers, namely big pandemia, HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. And I take the opportunity here to remind of the creation a few years ago of the Global Fund to fight those 3 main diseases, mainly by 2 countries, the United States of America and France, which still are today the 2 main contributors to this Global Fund, which is very active and efficient here in this country, Ghana. Last but not least, I think that to prevent is always better than to cure, to avoid a problem than trying to solve it from an economic as well as from a personal point of view. And efforts are certainly required from everyone, from every institution in particular, to better protect the environment and also make sure that our way of life is not taxing on our health. Well, everything that I'm mentioning here means that institutions such as hospitals in particular have a specific role to play, I think, in sharing information, even in educating and training people to that extent. Also, to prevent diseases is to develop research, and I use this opportunity today to mention a project dear to our heart here at the French Embassy, which was developed by Institut de Recherche et Développement and is aiming at developing a preventive treatment against pregnancy, malaria in pregnancy. As you know, it's unfortunately at the origin of many victims, and we try through that preventive treatment that is actually being tested as I speak to find the solution to that major problem. On this note, honorable ministers, dear colleague, ladies and gentlemen, I want to add my voice to that of the in all those, wherever they are, whoever they are, who made this possible, and to wish all success, all the best to this brand new hospital. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Short musical interlude coming from the La Paz Community Youth Choir.
Well, there you have it. Some live feed coming to you there from the Ridge Hospital, the Accra Regional Hospital here in Accra, and it's been formally open to the public. We'll take you back there when the president speaks. Now, away from that, the Energy Minister, Boakye Agyarko, has been receiving some backlash from stakeholders in the energy sector after his presentation yesterday at the Policy Summit. Workers of the Electricity Company of Ghana were the first to describe as regrettable and unfortunate recent claims by Mr. Agyarko that the company was fraught with inefficiency, citing instances where it failed to collect revenue for electricity it had supplied, thereby labeling it a debt-piling entity. The Energy Minister, Boakye Agyarko, added the challenges bedeviling the Electricity Company of Ghana may lead to its collapse if they are not remedied urgently.
21% of power supplied to ECG is lost. Every percentage point of power lost is the equivalent of 60 million cedis. I am not saying that ECG should not lose any power at all. Technical losses you can't do anything about. It is in the nature of the beast. But to lose 21% of what you are given to sell, by definition, ipso facto makes you unprofitable. We need to fix that. Part of the innovation, therefore, as we improve the reliability and availability of power, is to fix the balance sheet of our distribution entities, NETCO, ECG. I would challenge all of you to go look at the balance sheet or the financials, audited financials of those two companies. The last time I checked, ECG, for example, had a negative working capital of 2 billion cedis. I didn't say million, 2 billion cedis negative working capital. It tells you that your receivables are more than your payables. But it also tells you a story that any receivable aged past 180 days is a write-off. And some of these receivables, I dare say, go back to 6 years. Now, if somebody owes you money and they haven't paid you in 6 years, the chance of collecting that money is either slim or none.
Well, the comments by the Energy Minister have not gone down well with ECG workers. BOST and BDCs were also not happy with some comments made by the minister. Let's get some perspectives from an energy expert. If the minister's presentation has created a negative impact among stakeholders in the sector, Mr. Ishmael Ejikumhene is that energy expert I'm talking about. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Well, before we come to the specifics, what is your assessment of the presentation by the minister yesterday at the National Policy Summit?
I think what the minister said, it's factual. The ECG losses, 20%, 21% losses, it's factual. Everything the minister said, apart from the specifics about the U.S. Embassy and the MTN, which I'm not privy to, but at the industry level, everybody knows that ECG loses a lot of money. The technical losses, they can't do much about. But for the non-technical losses, it's high, and nobody can deny that fact. And I listened to the pool response, and apparently they probably didn't even know where the minister said it. Thought it was just a Daily Guide story. But it was a policy summit.
Okay.
And you need to situate what the minister said in its right context. And I think most of the things he said were factual. I don't know why we are contesting.
All right. So, Mr. Jakumhini, though these are factual, some stakeholders, as you've mentioned, are unhappy with portions of the presentation. How do you think this will affect the work between all these stakeholders within the industry? That is, even if it will affect it at all.
Well, I think whether we like it or not, most of the utilities are owned by the government. So it's the owner of these utilities telling them exactly how they feel. I think they're not happy. Obviously, they're not happy. And I believe they're going to resolve whatever differences they have. But the bottom line and the challenges we have as articulated, we should rather be focusing on finding solutions to those challenges. Because if we fight about what the minister said, who is to blame, who is not to blame, the real fact is that when you're selling something, and even before you start collecting money, you've lost 21% of that, that business cannot be profitable. So why don't we channel our energies into finding solutions to why we are where we are today and how we can address those problems permanently. All
right, Mr. Jakumhini, talking about addressing the problems, the Energy Minister, Mr. Boakye Agyarko, discussed some new measures they hope to implement. Talk of moving from wood fuel to LPG, having a master plan for the power sector that's to properly align all issues of the sector, reduce the role of government in guaranteeing projects and competitive procurement, and the fact that all power will be compositely procured. There'll be no favoritism. They'll get rid of losses in transmission and all that. Do you see us getting to a point of stability in terms of our energy supply and energy production based on these measures that he announced yesterday?
I think they are all steps in the right direction, but it's one thing declaring those intentions and another thing bringing them into being. Obviously, diagnosing the problem, we've known this long ago. The challenge is how to deal with what we call the legacy debt, which is actually a serious impediment. One needs to take that out of the way and then create the measures that would not allow those debts to pile up again before you can handle efficient utilities. So these are very well-intentioned ideas, and I think they are steps in the right direction. But whether we'll be able to translate all of that into action, given the situation and the hole in which we are at the moment, we can only wish the minister would.
Well, so Mr. Jakumhini, as an energy expert, what would you suggest to the government in making sure that these measures are realized?
It's, you know, they know everything that they are supposed to do. Basically, you need to deal with the debt that is hanging around their neck. The reason why sometimes you can't do certain things is that they don't even have money to address some of the problems they have. For example, if there's an overloaded transformer and you don't have a transformer to replace it, even though people's lights are going to go out, you can't do much about it. So the government has to immediately recapitalize the utility. That's the reason why I believe we are chasing this ESP. And it has to happen, or some other forms of recapitalization will have to come. But also some practices and some of the things that we are doing in the sector will have to stop. Some of the things that are funded as well, we are, especially all the IPPs that we've contracted, the PPAs that we've signed, very, very expensive PPAs. We need to move away from that, and that's some of the things they said they're going to do. So let's wait for the master plan that they're going to come up with. I believe it should bring all of these issues together, and then we can address some of them at once. But I think they know what they're supposed to do. The challenge is how to deal with some of the key bottlenecks.
Mr. Jakumhini, finally, before you go, what would you advise these stakeholders who are unhappy with the minister's comments to do, just to make sure that we are able to, together find a solution to the energy problems that are bedeviling the country?
I think for people, listening to them, they probably misunderstood what the minister said. They thought maybe the minister just granted an interview to. I think they will resolve their issues. I think they should tone down. There are issues, problems to be dealt with. It's not a time to be fighting. They should just close their ranks and find a common grounds and find solutions to the problems we are facing.
For your time this morning, Mr. Ejukumhene is an energy expert sharing his thoughts with us on developments after Energy Minister Boakye Jakum made some statements which apparently were didn't sound pleasant to some stakeholders within the energy sector. Away from that, today, 17th May, marks World Telecommunication Day. The celebration of the World Telecommunications and Information Society Day is deemed significant because it affords key players such as government, the private sector, civil society organizations, and the general public within the telecom ICT space the opportunity to recount the enormous benefits being derived from the digital revolution in ICTs to our people. And earlier on the AM show with Mama Viowusu Abaje, the Deputy Communications Minister George Nenye Anda shared his thoughts on the day and also spoke about investigations at the NCA. We'll bring you that later in subsequent bulletins. Right now, it's time for business here on JoyNews Desk.